Jacob thought the road would finally be quiet. After Shechem, after blood, after the terrible knowledge that his sons were capable of slaughter, and that his silence had helped shape them, he believed movement would save him again, the way it always had. Another journey, another set of tents, another stretch of land where the past might loosen its grip. But God does not speak when a man is ready. God speaks when a man is exposed. The command came not with thunder, not with fire, but with unbearable clarity, a certainty that pressed against Jacob's chest until he could barely breathe. Arise, go up to Bethel, dwell there, make an altar to me. Bethel, the place he had run from decades earlier, the place of the stone pillow and the open heavens, the place where he had promised everything and delivered almost nothing. Jacob felt the weight of the words settle over him like judgment and mercy at once. Return, not forward, not away, back. He gathered his household, and his voice shook as he spoke, not from fear of enemies this time, but from fear of God. He told them to put away their foreign gods, to cleanse themselves, to change their garments. This journey was not like the others. This was not escape. This was reckoning. They buried their idols beneath the oak near Shechem. Small gods, silent gods, gods that had watched without stopping the violence. The earth swallowed them, and Jacob wondered how many other things should be buried, but were still breathing inside him. As they moved, the terror of God fell upon the surrounding cities. No one pursued them. No one touched them. It was as if an invisible hand pushed danger away, clearing a path that felt undeserved. Rachel rode ahead for as long as she could. Jacob noticed the way her breath came shorter, the way her hand pressed more often against her belly. The journey wore on her, and something in his chest tightened every time she slowed. She had waited so long for children, had nearly died inside her grief before Joseph came. Now life was growing in her again, and Jacob prayed this road would not take from him what it had already cost him so many times before. But the road does not listen to prayers spoken too late. Near Ephrath, the pain began. It came suddenly, violently, tearing through Rachel's body with force that stole her breath and dropped her to the ground. The camp froze. Women rushed to her side. Jacob stood helpless, his staff sinking into the dust as if the earth itself were pulling him down. Her labor was hard, too hard. Hours past measured by screams and prayers and blood-stained hands. Rachel's face grew pale, her strength draining with every breath. Jacob knelt beside her, whispering her name, promising things he could not control, bargaining with a God who had already spoken. The child came, a son, but life is not always generous enough to give without taking. Rachel's eyes searched for Jacob, glassy and dimming. Her fingers found his, weak but determined, as if she needed him to feel her one last time. Ben-Oni, she whispered, son of my sorrow. Jacob shook his head, tears breaking free as her grip loosened. No, he said, his voice breaking. Benjamin, son of my right hand. But the name could not keep her. Rachel's breath left her slowly, quietly, as if slipping away rather than being torn. The woman he had loved at first sight, the woman he had waited 14 years for, lay still beneath the open sky. Jacob did not scream. He could not. Something inside him simply collapsed, folding in on itself under the weight of yet another loss he could not outrun. He buried her there on the road, setting a pillar over her grave, not in the land of his fathers, not in a city, but on the path between promises. Rachel, who had waited so long, did not reach the destination. Jacob rose from the grave with a limp deeper than the one in his hip, and still Bethel waited. When they finally arrived, God spoke again, not with rebuke, with confirmation. God reminded Jacob of his new name, Israel. He spoke the promises again, nations, kings, land, descendants like dust and stars. The words were heavy now, layered with grief and blood and burial. Promise did not feel like comfort anymore. It felt like responsibility. Jacob built the altar. He poured out a drink offering. He worshipped. But worship does not erase loss. It only teaches a man how to carry it. Time moved forward the way it always does, indifferent and relentless. Jacob's sons grew into themselves, their tensions sharpening rather than softening. Joseph stood apart, marked by favor and resentment. Benjamin grew under the shadow of a mother he would never know, held too tightly by a father afraid of losing again. And then word came from the south. Isaac was dying. The father Jacob had deceived. The father whose blessing he had stolen with trembling hands and borrowed clothes. The father he had not seen in years, not truly, not face to face since the day everything broke. Jacob went. So did Esau. Two brothers, chained by years and scars of forgiveness that had not erased memory. They stood together at Isaac's bedside, watching the life fade from the man who had shaped them both. Isaac's eyes were clouded now, his body frail, his voice little more than breath. But his presence still filled the room. The weight of him pressed on Jacob's chest, stirring guilt that had never fully died. When Isaac breathed his last, something ancient closed. The patriarch was gone. They buried him together. Jacob and Esau. No deception. No rivalry. No struggle. Just two sons standing over the grave of a father who had loved them both imperfectly, leaving behind a legacy of blessing tangled with favoritism and pain. As the earth covered Isaac, Jacob felt the past settle permanently into the ground. There would be no more apologies, no explanations, no chance to fix what had been broken at the beginning. Some things are carried forever. When the burial ended, Esau returned his land, and Jacob turned north again, leading a family shaped by promises and fractures alike. He was older now, heavier, a man who had wrestled with God and survived, but who had not escaped the cost of survival. That night, Jacob stood alone once more. The stars stretched endlessly above him, the same stars God had promised to Abraham, to Isaac, to him. Generations were forming beneath that sky, dangerous, chosen, flawed generations. Rachel was gone. Isaac was gone. Dinah carried silence. Simeon and Levi carried blood. Joseph carried dreams he did not yet understand. Benjamin carried sorrow in his name, even after Jacob tried to change it. Jacob felt the truth settle into his bones. The promise was moving forward, but it would move through betrayal, through famine, through exile, through a son sold and a family torn apart again. God had brought him back to Bethel. God had stripped him of what he loved. And God was not finished, because the story would not end with Jacob. It would descend into Egypt. It would rise through dreams and chains. And it would prove, again and again, that God's plan does not avoid suffering. It walks straight through it. And the next chapter was already beginning. Quietly, in the heart of a boy who dreamed the stars bowing down.